blessings and welcome to the path to freedom. This beautiful path where we get to set ourselves free to be in ever expanding love and joy and peace and harmony, to soar, to shine, to glow beyond imagination, to forever allow for greater and grander expressions of who and what we are to emerge, where we get to set ourselves free to or from that which no longer serves. The small, the limited, the complaints, the whining, the fears, the worries, the doubts, all of that which is keeping us stuck in a small and limited experience as we're moving along this beautiful path, as we're having our experience here in this human dimension. My name is Daniel Roquillo, and as always, I'm grateful that I get to be here with you, that we get to share this space, that we get to share this journey, that we get to share this path. And so I'm grateful for your willingness to be here, for your willingness to come back, for your willingness to do this work, which today is about how we need to win the argument. And this is not an argument that we're having with another individual. This is not an argument that we're having with a particular condition, but this is the argument that we are having with our own egoic structures. And this topic just came to me as I'm having this argument right now. Yesterday a particular condition emerged into my experience, a space that I need to move through. And I am finding myself with a lot of resistance towards this experience. And I'm finding myself, or I'm aware of the ego arguing for the limitations. The ego wants to know the ego wants to know why this has emerged. The ego wants me to feel sorry for myself. The ego wants me to lean into blame and judgments and putting on that victim suit. And so I'm having a real argument with the ego, because the ego is very convincing. It is very easy for me to buy into all these excuses, all these stories about how this should not be, and that it's not fair, and this shouldn't be happening to me, and all these thought forms that, while they seem very valid, they don't bring anything but suffering. They don't bring nothing but a sense of being a victim. And so this is the argument that we need to win. Regardless of what is happening around us, regardless of what another is doing, what they're not doing, we need to win the argument. We need to choose to be peace. We need to choose to be joy. We need, as Jesus said, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. We need to trust that whatever is happening, there's a meaning behind it. There's a reason for it happening. This benevolent, loving presence that is always expressing itself perfectly, that cannot ever make a meaningless act, that cannot ever make a random act, that never ever makes a mistake. So whatever is happening, the only thing that is happening is this loving presence expressing itself. And we, by virtue of where we turn our attention, by virtue of what we buy into, I'm not going to say give ourselves permission to be hijacked by, but whatever we are hijacked by, if we are hijacked by, as I am from time to time, moving back and forth in and out of right now, being hijacked by the egoic sense that this shouldn't be, and that I have all the right in the world to feel sorry for myself, that it is not fair, that this is unjust. This shouldn't be happening to me. Because I'm so spiritual, I've come so far. So I should be far beyond this kind of experience. These are the stories that the ego is just throwing in my face right now. And as I said, it's a difficult time. I'm having a challenge witnessing and observing them. I'm having a challenge embracing and allowing them. I get hijacked by them. I become aware of being hijacked. I come back to the breath. I release the attachment to them. I get hijacked. It just goes on and on and on and on in circles and circles and circles. And that's not really important. The outcome is not important. The important thing is that we do what we can to win in the argument. That in this case, in my case, I know that all is well. I know that there is something here for me. I know that this experience has come into, that this condition has come into my experience for me to learn something. I'm not particularly keen on the learning because I'm kind of fed up with being in process. I'm sort of fed up with having to do this work right now. I would much rather right now just be in a space that was completely challenge free. As I feel as though I've been running marathon after marathon after marathon after marathon without barely having enough time to just stop and take one breath before the next race starts. So this is not what I planned, and this is not what I wish for myself. But these are also just thought forms. Spirit knows what it is doing. It knows what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and when it needs to happen. So these stories about us being victims, about this shouldn't be, this should be, they don't serve us. So we need to win the argument of coming back to trusting that all is well. We need to win the argument over the ego so that the ego does not get the power to run us off into, or to pull us into victimhood, into resistance. Whatever we resist persists, right? We've heard that so many times. Whatever we turn our attention to. So me turning my attention toward how this shouldn't be, me turning my attention toward what I don't wish to experience more than turning my attention toward what I wish to experience, the only thing that serves is to perpetuate, to magnify, to sustain this very experience. Now I know that this is temporary. This space that I'm moving into and that I need to move through, it's going to last for a couple of months. I know that. And then it's over. Then something completely different emerges. So this is the final stretch. This is the final, like I know that I've shared that I'm moving through a very expansive space with a lot of structures crumbling and a lot of new structures emerging. This is the final crumbling of some of these structures. I thought they had crumbled, but apparently they hadn't. Or they haven't. So I need to be with this. So my work really is to find a way to forgive, because that's really what this is about. And forgiveness is not about condoning or accepting someone's bad behavior or hurtful behavior, but forgiveness is all about us releasing and letting go of our resistance, our judgments, the resentment that we are holding on to, the negativity that we are holding on to, where a particular individual is concerned, or as in my case, where a particular condition is concerned. So me finding a way to stay in joy, for me to find a way to stay in the relaxing, the rejoicing, and just simply being, to stay in the feeling tone that all is well, even when I'm having resistance towards it. Releasing the resistance. That's what I'm being called to do here. I'm realizing that as I'm hearing myself speak, as I'm hearing these words. that this is my lesson here. This is the good that is seeking to emerge in this condition, which is one of the most powerful questions that we can ask whenever we find ourselves facing a challenge. What good is here that I presently cannot see? Because every single challenge inherently has a gift and a blessing within it. A gift and a blessing that we need to mine, that we need to become aware of, and that we then need to lean into. Because the gifts and the blessings, they aren't just going to present themselves. They are gifts given to us, but we need to open that package. We need to open that present. We need to do the work of actually mining that good out of the challenges that we are facing, and winning the argument over the ego, taking back our mind, taking back our power, reclaiming our sanity. I mean, I could so easily just go with the ego, and this would be a hellish space for me to move through. It has been kind of hellish since yesterday. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have that experience. So I need to choose something different. This condition, it is not going to change. My experience of it will change as I lift my vibration, as I expand my consciousness, as I take on a higher perspective or a higher vantage point, as I move into viewing this from a different angle. The experience of it will change. The condition of it in and of itself, it will last for a couple of months. Actually, it's not even a couple of months, it's 6 weeks. So I will not change that, but it is not the condition in and of itself that is giving rise to this turmoil within me. It's my thoughts, it's my judgments, the opinions. They're not my judgments, they are not my opinions. It is the thoughts, the judgments, the opinions that I, from time to time, are being hijacked by, held hostage by, being attached to, identified with. It is in that moment of being attached, of being hijacked, of being identified. It is in that moment, those moments, that the suffering arises. Right now, there's not much suffering. I mean, I am still aware, I'm still conscious of the egoic excuses and the egoic ranting and rambling as to the stories that it is telling. So I'm still aware of it, but there's not much suffering. Right now, I'm actually experiencing joy. I'm actually experiencing a level of peace. And the condition hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed, the only thing that has shifted is my perception of it. As I'm not in this moment attached to the ego. So we need to win the argument. We need to become aware, first of all, the first stage of healing. We need to become aware of when we're being hijacked, when we're being held hostage. Then we need to embrace and allow that, not resist it, not fight it. Fighting the ego, resisting the ego, it serves nothing other than just perpetuating it, because now we're giving it our full attention. But witnessing, observing, embracing, allowing, those are stage 2 and 3 in the healing process, and then making conscious choices from that. So in my case, the conscious choices that I'm being called to make is to stay in joy, is to stay in gratitude, is to stay in the higher vibrations. So this is the work. It is continuous. Sometimes it's more difficult. Sometimes it takes more of our focus, more of our willingness. But this is the work that we get to do. Taking our minds back, and I'm getting shivers right now. Taking our minds back, reclaiming our sanity, moment by moment by moment by moment. Coming back to the breath, coming back to now, which reminds me, as I set the intention not too long ago, to infuse these messages with the coming back to the breath. So in this now moment, I invite us all to take a deep, conscious breath. Breathing in deeply. And releasing. Another deep breath in. Another deep breath in. And breathing out. And if we do this, if we make this a practice, habitual practice, to come back to the breath, peace will reign supreme. Because what happens when we come back to the breath consciously like this, like we just did, what happens is that whatever we're attached to, that attachment is broken. Us being hijacked is being dissolved. So we step into the nowness of this moment, where we get to witness and observe, where we get to embrace and allow that which, the content that is flowing through our minds. So let's take another couple of deep breaths. Breathing in deeply. And releasing. Another deep breath in. And releasing. This is how we win the argument. There's no need for us to fight the ego. All we need is to come back to the nowness of this moment, to come back to the breath and begin again, to have a moment of resetting our minds, to have a moment of releasing the attachment. And over time, as we do this diligently, as we do this on a constant and regular basis, over time, the egoic voice will begin to diminish. It will begin to weaken. It will not be as loud. It will not wield as much power over us, because we have taken our power back. Because we are taking our power back. So one last time, a couple of deep breaths in, breathing in. And breathing out. Another deep breath in. And breathing out. So the invitation for us is to set the intention to come back to the breath like this. Over the course of this day, over the course of the next few days, to as often as we remember to come back to the breath, just take either a couple or 3 deep breaths, conscious breaths, and give ourselves the gift of coming back to the nowness of this moment. Give ourselves the gift of release, of relief that comes with this kind of resetting. Questions to ask, I don't know, kind of like, what am I giving power to now? Where am I turning my attention? Is it serving me? Am I hijacked? Am I free? Questions along those lines, so that we continuously stay in that space of witnessing and observing our own minds, shining the light of awareness on our own minds, so that we may more and more quickly become aware of being hijacked, of having fallen prey to the ego, to judgments, opinions, thoughts as to what should and should not be. We need to win the argument. Winning the argument is us coming back to the nowness of this moment, because in the nowness of this moment, the ego has no power over us. The ego is bound by time. As we step out of time, there is nothing for the ego to latch onto. We're untouchable when we are in the nowness of this moment, when we're steeped in the nowness of this moment, grounded, centered in the nowness of this moment. This is practicing the presence. This is one of the foundational pillars of this path to freedom that we're walking. The other 2 are trusting and surrendering, and the art of manifestation, learning to align our lives with the sacred laws and their principles. So thank you so much for tuning in, for joining me, for participating. As always, if this resonates with you, I invite you to share it with anyone that you feel might benefit from hearing this. And until we meet the next time, again, I, as always, bless our days, and I bless our ways, in the full knowing that all is well, that something wonderful is happening, that everything is working for our highest good, the perfect preparation and unfolding is always happening. With much love and many blessings. Namaste.